Good evening. Welcome to the first in a series of webinars designed to address your questions. All questions will be addressed either in a webinar, a published FAQ, or someone personally getting back to you. Joining us tonight is our Assistant Superintendent, Craig Powers. And if you haven't met me personally, I'm Tom Giard, your superintendent. I want to thank everyone for all the great questions and feedback we've received over the last week or two. We've received well in excess of 100 questions. Tonight is twofold. We will provide a brief overview of the plan, which will allow us to hit upon many of the FAQs, frequently asked questions, you've asked. Second, we'll address FAQs that have been sent in. We will do as many as we can within this 1 hour time block. Beyond offering more webinars, and the next one is Wednesday, August 12th at 5 p.m., we will be publishing a weekly FAQ on Thursdays. All of the webinars and FAQs will be archived on our district reopening webpage. Frequently asked questions that have come in are being organized by topic and theme and have fallen into the general categories of masks, special education, health and safety, cleaning, logistics and operations of the buildings, buses, drop-off and pickup, learning, attendance, and ventilation. We're going to address a lot of questions tonight in all of those categories. As we get more updated info from the Connecticut State Department of Education, we will also be continually updating our district plan and posting that on our website. Without further ado, we're going to provide a brief overview of our plan and hopefully hit upon many of the FAQs you've been asking. Reopening for the 2021 school year is being guided by the Connecticut State Department of Education's reopening plan. There were requirements laid out within that plan and other areas of guidance which we're being asked to follow throughout the state of Connecticut, every school district. Please note that our plans are in draft format and will be continually updated as new information becomes available. Our plan has also been reviewed by 3 medical experts, Dr. Ramendra Walia, who is our school district medical advisor and is a doctor here in Eastern Connecticut, Leah Hendricks, who's supervisor of school health and wellness for the Visiting Nurses Association of Southeastern Connecticut, and Stephen Mansfield, director of health for Ledge Light Health District.
And so our plan by state order has to have 3 components: what a on-campus or a full-in approach would be, what a hybrid learning approach would be, and what a distance learning approach would be. The Connecticut State Department of Education requires that a district can choose the full on-campus learning option or the hybrid option. This was made available as of July 30th. The only way for a district to go to the distance learning model would require approval from both the Connecticut State Department of Education and the Department of Public Health. So plan 1 would be on-campus learning, for which you'll hear about all the measures that we've taken to ensure safety for all. But that would be where we would just have all students come in. I want to explain a little bit more about our second plan, which is the hybrid learning plan. In this one, we would have schools at 50% capacity, as you can see on the next slide with the schedule. So we would have divide the basic alphabet into 2 cohorts and have part of the alphabet, students with the last name, attend, if you're cohort A, say Mondays and Tuesdays on campus, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you would be doing distance learning. If you're cohort B, you would come to school on campus Thursday and Friday, but you would do distance learning Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The principals have to coordinate to ensure that all students grouped alphabetically by last name would come from the same households. So The goal here would be to lessen the disruption for parents by having all your children who might go to multiple levels of our district in school at the same time. Students will be provided instruction throughout the day in a synchronous audio live stream, video occasionally when appropriate, so that we don't stress the capacity of our network. And this would be through Zoom. Students would be accessing the learning management system, Google Classroom for grades 3 through 12, or Seesaw pre-K to 2, as they did in the spring, to access their assignments. And they will be able to see on Zoom the Promethean board in front of the classroom. So as the teacher is teaching the lesson, they can follow along and they can hear along. If there are issues with technology and people need hard copy materials, we will certainly try to get those to everyone who needs it. And the district has adjusted the option to include returning to a more traditional school schedule, so that we can leverage more safety. So we'll be facing one way, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about that in the safety portion.
And I know this presentation is obviously text heavy. There's a lot of text on each slide. This presentation will also be posted on our district reopening page. Under the full on-campus learning or hybrid learning, families under the Connecticut plan will be allowed to temporarily opt into distance learning, meaning you do not want to send your child to school any day of the week, preferring to keep them at home. Will be required to provide some level of distance learning for families that opt for temporary distance learning. Again, text heavy, and this will be published, but we anticipate by the end of this week sending a distance learning form and survey to all families in the town of Waterford who attend our schools. And that will be to signify to us that you want to temporarily opt into distance learning during this time of COVID. Please be aware that any time the Connecticut State Department of Education can determine that this option is no longer on the table if health conditions change here in Connecticut. Also want to make people aware that the temporary option for distance learning may not perfectly match and mirror a traditional school day. It may not result in a matching one-for-one of hours. Also want to make people aware, per Connecticut State Department of Education guidance, that students opting for temporary distance learning will be prohibited from participating in after-school activities, including interscholastic sports, for safety reasons. The Connecticut State Department of Education also says that students participating in distance learning will be expected to access statewide assessments either in person, if it's not available remotely. And finally, you can opt back into either hybrid or full on-campus learning at any time. We ask that you notify your child's school and give us about a 2-week window. It could be less than that, but up to a 2-week window to prepare for the safe return of your child to the school environment. As you know, our plan, as is every district's plan, is protocol dependent, and we want to make sure that our staff are prepared for the return of your child. Around distance learning, again, Mr. Powers mentioned synchronous learning. That will be the same for those who temporarily opt into distance learning. And again, using a face-to-face model, minimally 50% of the school day is what we'll be striving for. In the last plan, beyond full on campus or a hybrid, would be all students returning to distance learning. And as he said, this would be with the express permission and approval of the Connecticut State Department of Education and Department of Public Health. It is not something districts can choose to do on their own. It is only by permission of the state of Connecticut.
So here's the core of our learning organization, learning environment. We want to emphasize grouping or cohorting of students. That means that we want to keep the classes together for purposes of safety. So students will be with their homeroom teacher, grades pre-K to 8, and grades 9 to 12 where feasible. In this cohorting, this means that when students arrive, they're going to go right to their homeroom class. Lunch for pre-K to 8 would be served in that classroom. For middle school, that means teachers will be moving, not students, throughout the day. There will be scheduled movement breaks for kids so that they can take mass breaks and stuff. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll be maximizing the distancing, social distancing, by utilizing all building spaces wherever possible. And parents have always have the opportunity to access teachers by phone or email and in a virtual setting as we are tonight, or for a one-on-one meeting. The physical configuration for each classroom is being continually monitored to ensure student social distancing. The Connecticut State Department of Education guidance is that we will provide for teachers all the best practices for student collaboration, working in small groups, sharing of materials. Our plan is really to continue to use the Google Classroom and the Seesaw platform for the students in class as well as out of class to minimize the paper passing back and forth.
Just a couple of comments on classrooms, Mr. Powers, if I can interject, is one of the things our team has been working on all summer is removing all extraneous furniture from classrooms. So unnecessary file cabinets, bookshelves, things of that nature, so that we can spread desks as physically far apart as possible. And one of the frequently asked questions that's come in a couple of times here over the weekend is, could we provide photos of those model classrooms? And we hope to get those out to you in this week's published FAQ on Thursday. It was a good suggestion to those people that had that idea. Briefly around technology, as you know, our district has had a long-held policy of bring your own device. So any child in the district can certainly bring their own device to school, even for on-campus learning. Because of the lack of student interaction that we'll have due to COVID. We plan on doing some collaboration with students through the use of technology. We are going to, with district devices, strive to ensure that students have the same device each day for obvious reasons, and teachers are prepared and other staff are prepared to wipe those down if they do change student hands. If we were to revert into a hybrid or distance learning model, we are prepared to issue district devices to families who need them, as we did last spring, and that would be a similar process. And you might have also seen last Friday and again today, we kicked out information to all families on the Everybody Learns initiative, looking to make sure that every home in the state of Connecticut, per the governor's initiative here, has adequate connectivity to the internet. So if you are in need of adequate connectivity, please be sure to respond to the email we sent out Friday and again today. On health and safety, we really are utilizing 4 major areas, including cleaning protocols, face coverings, a health and safety containment and isolation program, as well as social distancing, and briefly want to hit a couple upon highlights here. All staff are going to be provided with adequate supplies, whether that's custodial staff or teaching staff. Our custodians have been trained and will continue to be trained in best practices as outlined by Department of Public Health and CDC. High touch surfaces, handrails, door pushes, things of that nature will be continually and regularly cleaned without the school day. Bathrooms, for example, as outlined in our plan, will be cleaned during the school day at least twice. And again, daily cleaning, and we're adding a new section to the release of version 2 of our plan later this week, specifically around daily cleaning protocols. So look for a new section in our plan, but needless to say, we'll be following all state of Connecticut, DPH, and CDC daily cleaning protocols. On those protocols, we're going to make sure that we have the proper distribution of sanitizing supplies, that we're following those proper cleaning and hygiene protocols. Each classroom is either going to be equipped with hand washing or hand sanitizers, and that will be the case throughout the district. Some of you asked for further information on daily cleaning of buses. That is outlined in our plan already. So look for that in the transportation section.
And for face coverings, we are requiring that all students, staff, and visitors entering the building will be required to wear a mask. That is at least a cloth face covering, covering your nose and your mouth. School principals will be prearranging scheduled mask breaks during the day and observing the social distancing guidelines, because we know that will be a long time to have a mask on. Those will be at least twice a day. Students and staff may remove their facial coverings to consume meals or when they're outside, as long as they're appropriately socially distant. And if a student or staff arrives to the building or boarding the school bus without a mask, they will be issued one, but we're expecting that students and staff would come to school with one. You can see that we've been talking about the face coverings, but in certain cases, some of our staff may be using face shields, and there may be clear plastic barriers between students as well. You will note on the talking points below that masks are no longer required for preschool. So it's required for the adults in the room, but not the students. And I think we've covered everything else there.
Craig, do you want to briefly touch upon the designated teacher instructional area in front of classrooms in accordance with state guidance?
Yeah, so a teacher may take off their face covering if they're at least 6 feet away from the students. So how we are going to be ensuring that safety is in front of the Promethean board, kind of outlining a teaching box area that will be appropriately spaced away so that teachers could teach without their face covering. This is especially important for the primary grades, where they're learning how to articulate, and they really need to see letter formation and how the mouth is formed to make sounds. So social distancing. Each school building will be reviewed with available classroom space, such as gyms and auditoriums, if they need to be reconfigured to maximize social distancing, consistent with public health guidelines. Signage is being created and being placed in all of our buildings in highly visible locations. Students must maintain social distancing to the greatest extent feasible. Students are expected to practice social distancing when entering the building, entering the classrooms, and moving throughout the school. Sharing of school supplies and materials will be avoided whenever possible. If unavoidable, we will enact our cleaning protocol. Large assemblies and group meetings or gatherings will be limited where possible to support social distancing efforts.
The next several slides are really around our health, safety, containment, and isolation protocols. I'm certainly not going to read every bullet on these slides. This is a direct cut and paste from our plans, but wanted to briefly summarize that each of our schools will have a dedicated isolation room as required by the state for any student or staff member experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. They would not necessarily be seen or treated in any way in the nurse's office. We want to maintain the nurse's office to deal with traditional school health issues that come up. The school nurse and building principal have some requirements around maintaining a log of who was in there for obvious reasons. The room will be staffed by VNA staff, Visiting Nurses Association of Southeastern Connecticut staff, who will obviously be properly trained and outfitted with the appropriate PPE, and they'll remain monitored while in there. And the goal will be, if it's obviously an adult and they're capable of driving home, to go home immediately. If it's a student, to be picked up immediately by their parent. There's been some FAQs, frequently asked questions, around contact tracing. So the district is not in a position to do the contact tracing. We will be working with our local health district, and for our area, that is the Ledgelight Health District, in collaboration with Department of Public Health, should we have a suspected or confirmed case in the school. Obviously, individuals who are sick should go home into a healthcare facility. We have a whole protocol outlined in our plan on page 29. I think it's actually in this presentation. And certainly disinfection and cleaning procedures will be enacted within the isolation room if a student had visited there. Each district in the state of Connecticut has to appoint a district liaison who will work with the local health district on issues such as a suspected or confirmed case in the school or school district. That person is me, as outlined in our plan. And immediately we would enact our communication protocol, which is, again, in our plan. There are strict guidelines within our plan about a student or staff member being able to return to work. And again, I'm not going to review those. It is 1 or 2 pages within our plan that outlines the benchmarks or hurdles that one has to clear in order to return to work or school. And again, our plan has been reviewed by 3 medical professionals. With that said, the state is indicating that they may come out with a statewide consistent protocol, the same protocol for every district in the state, which is obviously a good thing. As I mentioned, there's defined protocols for dismissing students and staff from school or work, as well as strict protocols for returning to school or work. And again, the main thing I can stress here is we have a great collaborative relationship with Director Mansfield at Ledgelight, and we'll be working closely with him and the public health professionals on this. This is what I was referencing earlier. I believe this is page 29 in your plans. Many of you have asked, what is the process for identifying a case? What do we do if it's positive? What do we do if it's negative? And what do we do if there's other symptoms that are presenting, such as students and staff suffer from allergies? How will we differentiate that from this? And again, this decision tree put out by Ledgelight Health District will be of great value. Again, many of you have asked and frequently asked questions. What will be the process for notifying you? There's a full 1-pager called Communication and Notification of Suspected and Positive Cases within the cohort, school, or district, that outlines the steps we'll take in notifying you while still maintaining privacy of individuals. Before I turn it back over to Craig here in a minute, I did want to hit on ventilation. That's been another frequently asked question. We will comply and have complied with all Department of Public Health guidance for school systems for the safe operation of central air and ventilation. And that's a hyperlink in our document that can take you to those. We are and will be in full compliance with those. We are in full compliance even prior to COVID with indoor air quality standards as defined by SMACNA. And we will obviously, before school starts, make sure everything is properly functioning. We're fortunate with the school renovations here in Waterford that all schools currently have controlled systems that filter 100% of outside air entering the building during occupied times, meaning when there's people in the building, 100% outside air is brought into the building. Our system monitors CO2 levels and modulates that airflow accordingly. Many of you have asked about filtration. All 5 of our schools use MERV 13 filters. MERV 13 filters is recommended by public health for use in all commercial buildings, including hospitals, and is expressly defined as meeting the needs of a COVID environment. And again, ventilation and fresh air intake will be optimized during these times.
So for transportation, with one of the models being full in, we have surveyed to see what parents want to use our transportation and what parents want to opt to transport their own children. But should you plan to use the buses in a full in model, we will be close to capacity, which is why we have to institute the safety protocol of wearing face coverings while on the bus. Obviously, if we move into a hybrid model, then there would be probably more availability for social distancing based upon the ridership. Parents are encouraged to transport their children to school. However, free transportation will always be afforded to parents who cannot. School district, as I said earlier, has surveyed and is surveying this Thursday again on their decision of whether or not to use the transportation. The school district is in concert with the Waterford Police Department to plan to accommodate the expected increases in vehicle and parental pickup and drop off. Principals are already underway developing advanced and different procedures for arrival and pickup. We need to limit the amount of unnecessary visitors into the building, and bus monitors will be used where high need situations have been identified. So on bus riding expectations, parents of younger grade students will be asked to secure the masks on students at the bus stop prior to entering the bus. Students will be required to wear their face covering or mask that covers completely the mouth and nose during the bus ride. Seating arrangements will be adjusted on the buses to prevent students from passing one another while loading and unloading. We're going to be taking boarding like maybe some airplanes where you just start in the back and then work your way forward and then empty out forward to back. If any student has a fever or any other COVID-related symptoms, they should remain at home and not ride the bus. Students should practice social distancing while waiting for the bus and for boarding the bus. And the bus driver will follow all expectations regarding health screenings themselves. The bus routes, schools will adjust their schedules a little to mitigate any possible impact in getting the buses to school. Bus times in the morning and afternoon may vary from the previous year slightly so that we can better accommodate the school arrival and departure with a lot more car traffic. Students will be expected to ride the same bus to school in the morning and the same bus home in the afternoon. That's a change. We've been very accommodating for pickup and drop off in various different locations. we're adhering to this to maintain a certain level of cohorting, and special education transportation will be provided consistent with IEPs.
And just to clarify a little bit, Mr. Powers, on same bus in the morning and in the afternoon, we're not saying it has to be the same place. We know with family arrangements and daycare, what we're really saying is we want to avoid the situations where students show up to school and say, oh, I'm taking bus 12 today so I can go over Johnny's house. If there's solidified arrangements for childcare and coverage reasons for your child, that's perfectly acceptable. What we're trying to avoid are those one-off situations where students jump on other buses that under normal circumstances are perfectly fine with us and with you, but during these times we're trying to cut down on those situations.
And then finally, the buses will be wiped down in between each run and will be sanitized completely twice a day, consistent with CDC guidelines. In the event there's a documented COVID-19 case, the bus or transportation vehicle will be immediately removed from service in order to be completely sanitized.
And as I close out here, as we will jump into some frequently asked questions for the last portion of tonight's webinar. As you can see, the vast array of staff that were involved beyond the medical experts we employed to help us. It's really indicative of the great team that we have here, and certainly pre-K through 12 was well represented here throughout the district with over 70 staff and Board of Education members serving on various committees. I know we've sent out communications to you about changes in the school calendar, really to afford us being able to train all staff, not just teachers, but all staff on the proper protocols in our reopening plan, August 25th through the 28th, with students arriving on Monday, August 31st. And again, our school calendar is always available on the district. As I mentioned, I'll serve as the district liaison. We have the Waterford reopening email address. And certainly any of your 5 principals here in Waterford are always your point of contact at the school level. I already mentioned the email address. If you haven't visited our district reopening page, there is much more on there than just our reopening page, reopening plan, and will continue to be populated with information as we produce it. One of the FAQs was, are we going to be putting the signage that we're displaying in schools on there so parents can reinforce that at home? That's one example of how that webpage will be enhanced this week. Distance learning forms and transportation forms will be sent to all families by the end of this week as well. So we're going to jump into some FAQs, frequently asked questions. I mentioned those buckets of topics that came in. This will certainly not be every question that was submitted, as we're well in excess of 100 questions, but we will hit many of those tonight. Other ones will be hit this Thursday in our weekly FAQ release. And again, next Wednesday, August 12th, we'll have another webinar that will solely be focused on answering your questions or addressing any new state guidance. So there was quite a few questions submitted around, do students have to wear masks? Who has to wear masks? When could they come off? What is a mask? Mask breaks, which Mr. Powers has already talked about. Are there backup masks? Things of those nature. So I just want to run down a couple of talking points here for you. Students in grades K through 12 are required to wear masks all day long, with the exception of eating and mask breaks. This is a requirement by the state of Connecticut. This is not a local rule. This is clearly spelled out in the state plan. For students while eating, drinking during certain times of PE, perhaps when it might be an aerobic exercise and properly socially distanced, or when students are outside and effectively practicing socially distance for mask breaks. Those are some times where masks may come off. There is a medical exception for those students or staff that would otherwise be incapacitated or their health would be in danger. and we would be asking for documented medical evidence to support that from a physician. There's been a couple of questions about what is a mask. People have proposed different ideas, a buff mask or a gaiter or things of those natures. I will direct you to page 26 in our plan where a mask or face covering is defined. Mr. Powers mentioned mask breaks. Those will be provided throughout the day and will really be age appropriate. And really, while there will be scheduled mask breaks, just to make sure we don't have 30 classes out there at once doing a break at once, teachers will have that latitude to make that judgment call based on the needs of their students. And again, that will be age appropriate. Some people asked about the enforcement of masks. Let me take students first. So masks are required. Students will be given multiple opportunities to be redirected should they not comply. There is certainly, again, there'll be reteaching around why we're wearing masks, again, age appropriate. Bottom line is if we have students who cannot comply with wearing a mask, parents will be contacted and we will be asking you to opt into temporary distance learning for the safety of others here in the school buildings. What happens if a parent refuses to wear a mask? Well, it's a requirement. We'll be passing a board policy this week on this. And if there's an adult refusing to wear a mask in a school building or in any other way, as our policy outlines, they'll be asked to leave. So those are really highlighting the mask FAQs that have come in. I cleared up preschool. We had some questions around preschool masks. The state came out last week and decided that pre-K did not have to wear masks. Everybody else will throughout the day. So I think that covers the bulk of the frequently asked questions. I want to briefly, go ahead, Mr. Powers.
No, I was just going to go into another section if you want.
Sure.
So there was some questions around how far away should students be apart from each other to be sufficient. The state of Connecticut has guidelines have asked districts to maximize social distancing to the greatest possible extent whenever feasible. 6 feet is not required at all times and is not guaranteed in our plan, especially with a full in model. We are removing classroom furniture, and we are asking parents if they want to temporarily keep their child home to do distance learning. We are limiting large group gatherings. And with that said, we're still having masks to be required grades K to 12. There was another question around what will the schools be providing with students or staff with PPE. On page 25 of our plan, and as mentioned by Tom earlier, we are asking students and staff to provide their own face coverings. But with that said, if a person comes to work or to school and doesn't show up with one, and that would include riding the bus, then the district will give a mask so that the person is in compliance. Face coverings will comply with the CDC and the Department of Public Health definition of face covering as defined in our plan on page 26. And there are some specialized PPE masks that are required, and the district will ensure that the staff have those required elements.
I want to briefly touch upon another frequently asked question. A couple people have asked, what benchmarks are we going to utilize for the shifts in learning models? For example, if we're full in, what's the metric that we're using to shift to hybrid? And if we shift to distance learning, again, which requires permission from the state, what are the metrics, and vice versa? If we're in a hybrid and we're going to go to full in person, for example, what are the metrics? So the metrics we're going to be using are the ones released by Department of Public Health and Connecticut State Department of Education. They were released late last week, and a revised release went out today. And I believe the governor actually held a press conference at 4 o'clock today outlining those metrics. Those will be an addendum in our plan in the next release. A couple people had questions around, get to the right page. What's the process if someone is either exposed or test positive in a classroom? And I mentioned this during the PowerPoint. While we're waiting further guidance on a statewide protocol, we do have a defined protocol on pages 29 in our plan. The communication protocol is outlined on page 13, and it goes down the checklist of what we will do. And again, we'll be consulting Ledge Light, Health District, and DPH. But both how we communicate that and the steps we'll take as a district are clearly outlined in our plan on pages 13 and 29.
So next, people were asking about cleaning and the frequency of cleaning classrooms and with what. Disinfecting and cleaning procedures will be initiated following the student release in compliance with CDC guidelines. Classrooms will be cleaned and sanitized daily. The district will provide proper use and distribution of sanitizing supplies, and there will be a protocol for regular cleaning in accordance with Department of Public Health and CDC guidelines. The Director of Facilities will ensure the compliance with the current DPH guidelines and is prepared to modify plans in response to changing conditions. All staff will be provided adequate supplies, including sanitizing wipes, to support the cleaning and disinfecting practices for commonly used services like keyboards or desks. In schools, daily sanitation of handrails, sink handles, doorknobs, door handles, light switches in bathrooms. Regular evening cleaning will consist of cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing in accordance with the above guidelines, or as mentioned guidelines. And the custodial staff will be trained with the appropriate health and safety practices and will adopt the procedures for disinfecting as outlined by the Department of Public Health and CDC. All sanitizers will be in accordance with our green cleaning policy as well. And then there was a question specifically around the frequency of cleaning bathrooms. Bathroom surfaces will be cleaned and disinfected twice a day in full building occupancy in accordance with Department of Public Health guidelines for cleaning and disinfecting schools. Full protocol for bathroom is outlined on page 39 of our plan, and additional strategies on cleaning can be found on the bottom of page 38. Then logistically, and I think Mr. Giard mentioned this earlier, would pictures of a model classroom be provided for parents? And we think that's a great idea. And our Director of Facilities and Operations is going to each school and taking pictures of what a model classroom would look like in each building. And that would be released in our next release of FAQs. And there was also questions about, well, we have the district plan, is there a school plan? And principals are operationalizing the district plan right now, and they'll be sharing specifics for their school in the coming weeks. Social distancing, a question about social distancing at the hallways of the high school. This is outlined on page 36 of our plan. All schools will have designated patterns for directional foot traffic within the hallways and stairwells through clearly labeled marking on the floor to minimize face-to-face contact. Lockers for middle and high will not be in use this year to, again, further lessen the hallway traffic. and schools will develop plans to minimize the number of students in the hallways and stairwells during passing time through cohorting and staggering the bell schedule. Another question about before and after care. Will that still be available? We anticipate offering both before and after care in accordance with our district protocols. The spaces may differ from previous years, and enrollment may be limited due to cohorting.
I want to hit a couple of things on bus. Both Craig and I will touch upon that. Question was, how will the buses be made safer for students? And I think we covered a good deal of that during the PowerPoint, but for a full breakdown of our transportation plans, pages 40 to 42 in our plan really touch upon that. Question was asked, why would school buses be allowed to be at full capacity during this time? So bus capacity in the state of Connecticut, those metrics are determined by the Connecticut State Department of Education and Department of Public Health. There's a chart in our plan on those pages 40 to 42 that shows the different levels of bus capacity. This is outlined again on page 15 of the state plan and is reflected in our document. With that said, initial survey back in early July when we did the initial survey on transportation, about half of the parents who utilized transportation last year indicated they'll be using it this year, again, opting to provide their own transportation. I also know that's not available for every family and logistically and otherwise, and that the bus is a necessary element of getting your child to school. But with reduced numbers on the buses and parents opting to transport their child, we're confident that there'll be more space on buses than certainly full capacity would allow for. So again, Craig and I have both mentioned on Thursday of this week, we'll be sending out a survey and some information, not only for parents to choose distance learning or not, the voluntary option, but also whether or not you plan to use district transportation. On the transportation survey, we'll be asking every family to fill that out. So we have about 2,500 students. We want 2,500 forms. What are you doing as far as transportation? So look for that. And I know we've had some questions around pickup and drop off. And
yeah, just to kind of bounce back on that, a lot of questions on dismissal, pickup and drop off, staggered times, space, what's the procedure? And as Mr. Giard said, the transportation survey that we're sending out is a key factor in planning that, so that we're asking, as Mr. Giard said, all families to give us a response. Once we know this information, we'll finalize our pickup and drop-off procedures. And the school district, in concert with the Waterford Police Department, will plan to accommodate the expected increases in vehicle for parental drop-off. Principals will and are developing procedures for going to school and leaving school, and that will limit unnecessary entrances into the building of parents or guardians. So we're going to have, each school will allow minimal contact with parents and school personnel and students while dropping off and picking up students. Students will be supervised at all times during both drop-off and pickup.
Yeah, whether it's bus, students disembarking buses during the morning or boarding buses in the afternoon, and same with pickup and drop-off, there's definitely going to be changes from a typical year. We won't be emptying all of our buses at the same time, and we won't be having every parent who's transporting their child show up at the same time. So we anticipate some staggering or compartmentalizing, whether it's by grade or alphabet or otherwise, some procedures around that. So we minimize large groups walking into the building at one time, and we're able to really maximize that social distancing. So those, that's why it's vital that you respond to our transportation survey on Thursday, and that will allow us to adequately prepare. And certainly as the Chief Academic Officer of the district, we received a number of questions around learning, which I know Craig is prepared to hit upon a few of those tonight.
Sure. There was a lot of questions around, um, why is it imperative to start school um, when they when not much has changed um, as distance learning has begun. We were required by the state of Connecticut to provide a plan that had three components: full in, hybrid, and a distance learning model. After the plan was required to be submitted, the state then gave districts the opportunity to decide on full in or hybrid. And the distance learning model would only be allowed with express permission, as Mr. Giard said earlier, in conjunction with the State Department of Education and the Department of Public Health, based upon the health metrics. So another question around.
Can I just interject one thing on that, Craig? And I know I've gotten many emails from parents. When is a decision going to be made on in-person versus hybrid? That decision is going to be made this week. We feel for you to make the most informed decision for your family, whether it be choosing distance learning or transportation or otherwise, you really need to know whether we're going to be full in-person or hybrid. So when that survey goes out, you'll know which model we're operating under when we return students on August 31st. It will be either full in-person or hybrid. Those are the only two choices available to us. But that decision will be made this week.
And then once you have that information, another question would be, how do we notify the district if we're going to either send our students in full person or keep them home for distance learning? Again, there'll be a survey that will go out on August 7th, asking families to elect if they're going to voluntarily do distance learning themselves, or if they'd be sending their children to school. We're asking, we'll be sending out more information to families in the near future who wish to opt for the distance learning during the on-campus or the hybrid models. Students learning from home may choose to return to campus at any time. However, school personnel will determine upon a mutually agreed upon reentry date for safety procedures and to ensure that we can accommodate everyone. There may be a reasonable notification period before families can re-enter the schools, and that would be up to 2 weeks. If students participate in a remote learning, either during a hybrid or a complete remote learning, what's the expectation that the students, especially kindergarten and first graders, sit in front of a computer screen all day? That is a challenging one developmentally. The normal school day is 6 hours and 30 minutes. The state and federal requirement is to have 900 hours of education a year. Take 900 hours, divide it by 180 days. That's a minimum of 5 hours a day of learning. The district will continue to use Seesaw in the primary grades and will receive their work. They can listen in and watch the board as they access Zoom, and they'll be able to ask questions to the teacher when it arises. But with that said, there may be times where the student doesn't have to watch the video or be in front of the computer, and that would be when the class is having a mask break, or if the class goes to a special or goes to lunch.
And two things on that. The state of Connecticut and their guidance to us are really pushing districts through their guidance and recommendation for at least a 50% synchronous learning day, and more if a district has the ability to do that. And the second factor in moving towards this model was the parental survey feedback from last spring, which parents overwhelmingly wanted a more synchronous live teaching model for their children to increase perhaps the level of engagement. On that note, as we do during normal school times and we do during these COVID school times, we stand ready to respond to the needs of your child, and we'll work through it. There's been some questions around cohorts. How are cohorts going to be formed? What happens if I have multiple children in multiple schools across the district? Will children in the same household have the same hybrid schedule? If we were to be in a hybrid schedule with cohorts, things of that nature. So let me talk a little bit about that. Cohorts in grades pre-K through 8 will be primarily determined by, I'm really talking about hybrid cohorts and how that's going to break down. We're primarily determined by alphabet, ensuring 50% capacity in the building at any one time. If there are multiple children in the household across multiple schools, they will be grouped on the same day. So they'll be going to school on the same day and home the same day. Classroom cohorts, meaning whether, the groups that will be appearing in school each day, either during full on campus or during how those form. We're going to be doing our traditional class pre-K through 8, our traditional class list process as we would any other year. At the high school level, obviously there's course selection and things of that nature. We will not necessarily be tweaking the makeup of our classes to achieve a particular outcome or not. Questions have been asked around how many kids per class can we expect? Are we going to reduce class sizes? If we were full on campus, we certainly anticipate a fair percentage of parents will opt for voluntary distance learning. That will certainly reduce class sizes. Certainly that would result in class sizes less than a typical year. Obviously, in a hybrid model, between less students on campus every day and other families and parents choosing distance learning, class sizes will be further reduced as no more than 50% of students would be in the building at any one time. There was another question around switching classes. We've been pretty clear at the elementary level. Students will remain in the same room, perhaps with the exception of phys ed, where we'll try to get them outside, and obviously mask breaks. And that will hold the same for middle school. Students in pre-K through 8 will not be switching classes, really with the exception of physical education. There may be certain instances where a smaller subgroup of students from a particular cohort or classroom may move to another classroom for small group instruction with a particular teacher. Perhaps maybe it's an intervention group. But with any movement in the building pre-K through 8, students will not be mixed with students from other cohorts. And appropriate cleaning measures will be implemented at the high school level, where students will be switching classes, and those protocols are outlined in our plan. And to wrap up the learning, I know Craig wants to hit upon just a few more.
So questions again around primary, elementary. If a kindergartner is in their classroom the full day wearing a mask, how will they get the proper movement, and how would recess be handled? So the students will stay in the classroom for the majority of the day. They will be having lunch in there, but for recess, they will have designated play areas for each classroom, so that that cohort can still stay in a cohort, but be outside to play. There will be scheduled mask breaks, as stated before, and as all of our primary teachers, I'm sure they will be making sure that the students have proper movement breaks within the classroom as well. Will there be more efforts to get students outside? So yes, when students have recess, when students have mask breaks, that's a potential. And if a teacher can conduct a lesson outside, she or he is allowed to do so as well.
And I think the important thing is we want students, we know there's going to be a fair amount of anxiety returning to school amongst staff and students. And we're building units of instruction as well as units around social emotional learning for students the first several weeks of school to experience high success. And doing those activities that foster relationships between students and student to teacher will certainly be an emphasis, and I'm sure will result in time outside as well. Not that learning will take a back seat, because next to safety, learning is part of our primary mission, but we know we also need to build that capacity earlier in the year if learning is going to take place throughout the year, and making sure students are in a good place socially, emotionally, and mentally is vital. So that gets us to about the 1 hour mark in our first webinar. And again, you can look forward to another FAQ release on Thursday, where some of these questions will be put into written form, and ones that we didn't get to tonight will be covered as well. And again, we'll be advertising another parent webinar next Wednesday, August 12th at 5 p.m. And again, if you can't make it, the time may not be convenient for your family. They're going to be archived on our website, and you can view them or listen to them at any point. So I thank you for tuning in. I'm being told we had close to 200 viewers tonight, somewhere around 175, 180. So that's a great turnout for our first webinar. And again, our team stands prepared to answer any and all of your questions. And as I said at the beginning, as we receive further state guidance, we'll obviously be sharing that with you and changing our plan. And as we change our plan, we'll let you know what those changes are with each release. So thank you for tuning in. Craig, any final words from you?
We are all learning together, and we will make the learning environment as productive and as safe as possible.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.